me in the back of a car.
Or just a new nightmare.
2 years of constant torture. I would eat the skin on the inside of my mouth and suck the blood out so that I could rehydrate.
Before you send your child to rehab, find out what could happen.
It sticks inside of you. It eats away at your soul.
That's what's coming up right now on Montel. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today. You know, since the 1970s, parents have been sending their troubled teens to intensive adolescent treatment programs. But are these troubled teens getting the rehabilitation that their parents hope for? I want you to take a look at this.
When I was a teen, about the age of 13, I started doing drugs and hanging out with the wrong crowd. By the time I was 15, I was in trouble by getting arrested and just not listening to anything my mom said.
She was basically out of control. I didn't know what to do to help her, and she evidently didn't really care what was happening to her.
Well, at age 13, my mother and stepfather thought I was drinking, and they thought I was doing drugs. No matter what I said, no matter what I did, I was wrong, and I was a liar, and I was a druggie.
Well, I pretty much just stopped going to school. I just wanted to do what I wanted. I just wanted to have fun and just hang out with my friends. That was about it. And my parents didn't like it.
We tried to talk to him. We tried counseling. We got to a point where we were extremely desperate for help, and we didn't know where to turn.
Teen rehabilitation centers look like the answer.
I found the schools by going on the internet, putting in boot camp for teens, and everything looked so great. The pictures looked like a resort, and the parents were all real up and cheerful and happy. It looked like the perfect solution.
They told us that he would be safe. They had a very good educational program, and that they would work with changing his behavior. And it sounded like exactly what we needed.
It was perfect. Seemed perfect.
But what was really going on?
I mean, they make it look like it's a summer camp and it's really fun, but it's really not like that.
There were no windows. There was like slats in the walls. It was infested with bugs.
All the kids looked scared. No one was talking. No one was looking up. Everyone was just had their heads down.
You're not allowed to eat, sleep, walk, talk, breathe, look at anything, do anything without permission. Punishments are beatings and restraints, and they would sit you on the floor with older kids sitting on your limbs and on your chest.
They grabbed me and put me on the floor, pulling my legs out from underneath me. There my chin split open. They continued restraining me as I was bleeding everywhere.
Tackle me, throw me on the ground, and then of course I get mad and I start struggling, and then it would look like I'm out of control, and all the other staff members would jump on me. I've been tackled through a door and down some stairs. I went down some stairs on the side of my face. The whole side of my face was bloody, and they just put me back in isolation so none of the other students there or kids there would find out about it.
I was slowly fading away. I honestly, at that point in time, would have rather died than stay there a day longer.
They just ripped into me. You're a druggie whore, you're a druggie whore, you're a druggie whore, you're worthless, you're no good, your parents don't even want you. We should just go ahead and let you die here because you're not going anywhere, you're never gonna get anywhere, you're not worth anything to anybody.
Are teens being rehabilitated or tortured? Please welcome Samantha to the show. Welcome. I see they're talking about a show where teens are sent off to rehabilitation centers to adjust their behavior, and I'm going to do this a little strange, but you're not a teenager.
No, I'm not.
And I bet everybody at home sitting here looking at this, why is this lady sitting here? Because 20 years ago, 20-something years ago, your parents sent you off to one of these kinds of programs, did they not?
Yes, they did.
What was the name of the program that they sent you to?
The name of the program that I was sent to was called Straight Incorporated.
Okay, now this is 20, you were 12 when you went there.
13.
You're 13 when you went there, so we won't give you exact age. 20-something years ago, you were sent there. And the reason why I'm even bringing this up is because before we even talk about what happened, why don't you tell them how this is still impacting your life today?
Well, I'm 37 years old. It's been 24 years from the escape. And
from the escape, say that again. Go ahead.
From the escape. And
even today, just thinking about it brings up the same terrible feelings I had as a little girl. It's hard to get rid of that when you go through 2 years of constant torture and badgering and belittling. It sticks inside of you. It eats away at your soul. They sucked the marrow out of my life and left me brittle.
There are several programs like this that exist around this country today.
Yes.
We are not, I'm going to say it right here at the beginning of this program, and I'll say it over and over again. I am not casting a shadow over every one of these facilities. We don't know what all the facilities do. I will tell you now, this country now, that I personally have a personal situation because I was one of these parents who shipped my child, my own child, off to one of these facilities. And it's been one of the biggest regrets of my life.
They don't deny what happened to me. Straight Incorporated never denied it. And the reason is because the statute of limitations has run out for me.
But weren't you using drugs?
No.
Weren't you drinking?
No.
Weren't you running out of the house?
I ran away because my stepfather would beat me every time my mother left the house. The police knew about it.
Weren't you sexually active and prostituting down the street?
No.
Weren't you selling drugs?
No.
Weren't you? So that's what these facilities are for. Or for kids who are using drugs and behaviorally out of
They're
control.
not.
You were hitting your parents.
No.
You were screaming up and down, just completely out of control. A
No.
wreck. Let me take a little break. When we come back, I want you to now go back and let's talk about what happened in this facility. Because I think, though this happened 20 years ago, throughout this show, you're going to meet some people who have been to facilities even more recently than this. We'll take a break. We'll be back right after this.
I ate the skin and my nails off of my fingers. I picked at every scab I had to feel some sort of viability, to feel alive. I wanted physical pain on myself so that I could remember that I was alive.
You arrive at this facility, immediately when you get there, it's an indoctrination, of course. So
Yeah.
You're being yelled at, being screamed at, right? Within the first couple of days there, you attempted to jump off a balcony.
Right.
Are you a teen girl who gets violent with your family, peers, or boyfriend when you get angry? If so, call us at 1-800-MONTEL-2. That's 1-800-MONTEL-2.
Again, welcome Samantha to the show. You spent time in a facility, and this facility, again, was called the Straight Program, correct?
Straight Incorporated.
Straight Incorporated. So let's back up. When your mom told you, look, I can't deal with this anymore, I want you to go see your dad, right? Was that what she was going to take you to?
Well, she told me that we were going to the travel agent to pick up airline tickets because my biological father had decided that he was going to take me.
Now tell them what happened to you.
As soon as I got out of the car, I walked into a warehouse building on Cattleman Road in Sarasota, Florida. It still exists. And walked through the front door. My luggage was set aside. My mother looked at me as two girls came and led me away to an intake room, where I sat for about 12 to 14 hours and was interrogated and told by them that everybody in there who knew me had already confessed that I was a druggy whore, that I had been having sex, that I had been drinking, that I had been
12.
doing drugs.
13. Go
Doing
ahead.
drugs. That I'm not getting out of here. My mother doesn't want me. So I might as well sign myself in, and that it would only take me 14 days to get through the program.
And 2 years later,
I escaped.
let's back up and talk about what happened during those 2 years. Talk about what punishment was like. What kind of punishment would you get?
The standard punishment for people in the program who were just being broken, where they were trying to break their spirit, was complete isolation, complete dependence on somebody else for your basic necessity of a drop of water to go to the bathroom. If you were a bad person or an uncooperative person like myself, you were beaten, you were isolated in behavior control rooms, you were sat upon by at least 5
Explain this. They would have other kids in the facility do what?
restrain you. They would sit on you for hours at a time. You're laid upon a concrete floor where they pick the largest kids in the group to sit on you. Your limbs fall asleep.
And they sit on you for, this is like sitting on you for like 10 minutes.
12 hours, 9 to 9.
You ran away.
Twice.
Once. Well, the first time you ran away, they brought you back and you thought you were flying back to see your mom and she was going to take you somewhere else, correct?
Yeah, I did. I ran away.
As soon as you stepped off the airplane in the airport, what happened?
I was attacked by, I believe it was 4 grown men. Carried out of the airport. It took them a good 45 minutes to get me out of the airport, kicking and screaming for help. First, I fought and tried to stop the driver, and finally they tied me up like a cow or a hog and left me in the back of the van for the entire 5 hours.
You get back and they put you in isolation.
Yep.
And this time for how long?
14 days.
Without a bath, without a shower, without food. You're now 14 years old, a young lady. And when they finally opened up that door to that isolation room, what were you like?
A sick, wild animal.
Covered in head to toe with feces and
blood from my menstrual periods, blood from the inside of my mouth, because I would eat the skin on the inside of my mouth and suck the blood out so that I could rehydrate. I ate the skin and my nails off of my fingers. I picked at every scab I had to feel some sort of viability, to feel alive. I wanted physical pain on myself so that I could remember that I was alive.
And then finally one of the employees of this facility offered you a deal, did they not?
Yeah, but he wasn't
deal?
an employee. He was just a graduate, a staff, we called him.
Staff member?
Yeah, they don't get paid. They're graduates.
So they just stay there?
Yeah.
So the deal he offered you was what?
If I have sex with him, he'll make it easier on me.
And how old were you then?
14.
So you were raped? Repeatedly?
They were wondering why I wasn't getting my period, so they gave me a pregnancy test and found out that I was pregnant by staff.
And then what did they do?
They kicked me out.
A facility?
Yeah.
But sent you to where?
HRS, Department of Children and Family Services.
And then HRS did what?
Forced me to have an abortion, paid for it. And then they put me in a psychiatric hospital, where I stayed until I was 16 and finally emancipated myself. I got my GED and I left. I walked away from all of it.
Did you go back home?
No. I couldn't go back home. I don't have a home to go back to.
At the time that you were there, did you realize that your mother had sent your sister there too?
Yeah, she was there.
But you didn't see her initially, did you? I mean,
we weren't allowed to talk to each other. You're not allowed to talk to anybody who has a druggie tied to you, whether it's your sister, your father, your brother, your uncle, your cousin, your aunt, your minister. Anybody that you knew prior to going to straight is no longer significant to you. And if you are caught talking to them, they will beat you down. It's no joke.
This is one of these facilities where, in this particular case, there's a mom who decided, for whatever reason, she could not handle her daughters, and both of you were sent. I'm going to take a break. We'll come back. We'll meet Sam's sister, Lisa. Take a break. We'll be back right after this.
They told me that I was going to be 18 in 90 days, and if I signed myself in, I could get out in 90 days. If I chose not to sign myself in, they would have me court-ordered in until I was 21.
Tell all the parents that your children are going to be safe in our programs, and if you want your child to be successful, you have to support the staff and the program 100%. In other words, if you don't support everything that they say, then it's going to be your fault if your child isn't successful.
Take a look at what we're working on for tomorrow's show. Teresa was only 12 when her father was accused of molesting her and her 10-year-old sister.
My daddy didn't do it.
She testified that he didn't do it. Her little sister testified that he did.
I was doing what the authorities told me to do. They convinced me.
Jeffrey spent 15 years in prison for a crime he did not commit.
I feel like it was my fault because I cried on the stand too much to bring you home.
That's tomorrow, Montel. Please welcome Samantha's sister, Lisa, to the show. Let's see. Talk to me for a second. How was your experience as straight? Any different from your sister?
Samantha was more of a fighter than I was, and she was a lot younger than I was the time that I went in.
She was what? She entered there at 13. You entered at how old?
I was 90 days away from being 18.
And your mom sent you anyway?
Yeah. When I went down to Florida for my mother's wedding, she told me that Samantha was in straight and said that I needed to go have an interview in order to see her. So I went down to the straight building and ended up staying.
Ended up staying on your own, or?
No. I went into an intake room, and when I went in there, there were several kids my age and younger who were there to interview me, and they started asking me questions. Have you ever smoked pot? Have you ever drank? Are you sexually active? I was told that if you're truthful, then you don't have anything to worry about.
And you get to see your sister.
Right, and that was my purpose of being there.
The only reason why you were there.
Right, that was the only reason I was there, so I could see Samantha. So when they asked me, have you ever smoked pot? I said, yeah, on occasion. Have you ever drank? Yeah, on occasion. And then I was in there for a long time, a couple hours before they turned the tables and told me that, well, you're a drug addict and you're going to stay here.
But you had to sign yourself in, did you not?
Right. They told me after a couple of hours of, trying to convince me that I needed to be there, they told me that I was going to be 18 in 90 days, and if I signed myself in, I could get out in 90 days. If I chose not to sign myself in, they would have me court-ordered in until I was 21.
Okay, so you decided, I guess, these people have it over me.
I thought...
Who's paying for this?
My parents, I assume. I'd never asked who was footing the bill. Later on, after I escaped and, found out that, my mom and my stepdad did have to pay for it, but at the time I didn't care.
At any point in time of any of these facilities that you signed yourself into, you can sign yourself out of.
No.
They said you can't?
No. It was, you couldn't do anything on your own. In the very beginning when you got there, you could not do anything on your own. You couldn't go to the bathroom, you couldn't shave your legs, nothing.
How did you get out?
I had earned the privilege to go home and live at my mom's house. And when we were in the homes, the foster homes, everything was locked down. The windows were barred, the doors were dead-bolted. Even the bedroom door that we would sleep in was locked from the outside. When my mom moved into a new apartment, I had earned the privilege to go home, and she hadn't exactly locked it all down yet. So I had a little bit more roaming freedom, and I took a kitchen knife into my room and cut the wire that was on the window to get out.
And ran away?
And ran away. I ran away with my jeans and my sweater.
And never looked back?
And tried not to.
When was the last time you talked to your mother? You just recently started talking to each other, correct?
Yeah.
And why is that?
There's, 'cause she left me there.
Well, but you know what? I'm not sure if that's... That we got to talk about.
That's how I felt.
I know. That's how you felt.
I don't feel that way anymore, but that's how I felt. She left me there. I'm her younger sister. I would have never let Kate go through that.
Well, how are you guys now?
I love my sister. I forgive her for it now, but it's hard. It's hard to trust each other. I mean, I had to stand up in a group and degrade my sister and tell lies about my sister in order for these staff members to give me a piece of food. And and I feel guilty for it, and I hate myself for it.
What does your mother say to this?
She says she didn't know any better. She says that she did the best that she could do. She says that she didn't know.
Let's take a break. When we come back, a young girl who was so depressed at her treatment facility that she almost died and almost tried to end her own life. We'll take a break. We'll be back right after this. What made you think about overseas versus here?
The local community where I live in South Florida had a lot of children in that program. And there was a big support network. There were a lot of people there. They recommended the program. So It sounded good at the time. It sounded good, and I was desperate.
Please welcome Shannon to the show. Shannon, I have to say this before you even speak. Mr. Ken Kay, the president of WASP, which is WWASP, which is the holding organization for two of these facilities called Spring Creek Lodge, Tranquility Bay, states that our regimens are designed to cope with teenagers who are threatening their own lives. WASP has denied all charges related to you. All charges, okay? So, now that I've read that, the reason why they gave us that statement is because when you arrived, first off, your mom, let's talk about you, yourself. Do you think that your behavior was such that you needed to have something outside your house to help you?
At the time, I wasn't responding to any other treatment. I wasn't listening to my mom or anything. Something other could have helped me, but to where I went, I don't think to that extent.
But you were using drugs at the time,
yes.
so and being belligerent. So and there are parents at home that are going, "What am I supposed to do? I don't know what I'm supposed to do." And so, you know, I'm doing the best I can. I looked on the internet, and I came up with this thing. It said Tranquility Bay. Looks like a perfect place. Look at the pictures. It's great. Okay, let's send you there, and I'll get you help. But you rolled up on this place, and what happened?
Well, first of all, I wasn't aware of what was going on. I was taken out of my house. I didn't get to say goodbye to my mom. Anything, the day before Christmas.
You were how old at the time?
I just turned 15.
15. You walked in your door of your house, looking around, yo, woohoo, woohoo. And so people just kind of jumped out of nowhere, did they not?
Well, I asked my mom, where am I going? Am I going to rehab? She said no. She went upstairs. I sat down because I knew I wasn't the best behaved then. So I didn't know what was going on, but they just came in. I was screaming for my mom, crying, what's going on? I mean...
Were you shocked?
I was shocked. I never thought something like that would happen. I mean, even though I was misbehaved and I did not treat my mom with respect, or I loved her no matter what, and I couldn't go a day without her. Even though if I was doing bad or doing drugs, you know, she was all I had. It was just me and her, and I didn't show it to her. But going without her, not being able to say goodbye, I was devastated.
Devastating. You arrive at this facility. Immediately when you get there, it's an indoctrination, of course. So you're being yelled at, being screamed at, right? Within the first couple of days there, you attempted to jump off a balcony. Right. What stopped you?
The staff actually grabbed me down and restrained me on the floor before I could actually get down.
And from this point on, why don't, just tell us what this facility was like for you.
Well, right after that happened, they brought me into a place. It was a form of punishment. You have to lay down on your stomach with your arms by your side all day long. I mean, you might get a 5-minute break every few hours. But I stayed like that for 8 weeks.
8 weeks, no schooling?
8 weeks. No schooling.
No education? No reading, writing, arithmetic, nothing?
Nothing.
No counselor coming in each day to talk to you, how are you doing?
Nothing.
Mr. Ken Kay, the president of WASP, says, our regimens are designed to cope with teenagers who are threatening their own lives. WASP has denied all charges, so I guess they would deny that one also.
They'd restrain people there even when they weren't threatening their lives. If they had exercise programs you had to do while you're in OP, and get up and do like extensive amounts of exercise, 1,500 jumping jacks in a row, stuff like that, and they'd restrain you.
But you were here to handle a drug problem, a social problem. Were you getting any therapy for drugs?
Not for drugs, no. I mean, while I was there also, I was depressed. I was on medication and stuff. They didn't take care of the things they should. While I was in OP, I mean, I laid there, and that was the whole extent of my day.
Still taking medication?
I was supposed to be.
Well, you weren't, okay.
I mean, I did. It wasn't given to me as often as it should be. It wasn't on time.
Why don't you tell them what happened to your job?
I had gotten into a dispute with the staff, and I'd gotten restrained for it, and I was still crying. I was crying there the whole time. I mean, I was very upset constantly. Since I was still crying, they went to go after me to restrain me again. I didn't want to get restrained again because it hurts, obviously. I was holding on to one of the wooden frames on the wall, which was a bed. One staff grabbed my arms behind me so I couldn't hold on to it anymore, while the other one pulled my legs out from underneath me. So I fell with all my weight onto the floor.
Onto your?
On my chin.
And broke your jaw.
Well, at the time, I mean, I didn't know. It split
But
open,
we
was
do now
bleeding.
find out later your jaw was broken.
It was dislocated.
Dislocated. And how many surgeries have you had to have since leaving?
Finally, after I got home, I've had 2, and I have another one scheduled for a few weeks.
What is that picture of?
And that's an injury that happened, not the exact one as my chin, but that was an injury that happened while I was there. It was worse than that. They took me to get a passport picture. I had hit my head while I was there. I was completely distraught. I mean, I got very suicidal. I did not want to live anymore. I could not stand being there a day. And while they were straining me, I just got so filled up with emotion, I'd hit my head. I didn't want to live anymore. I had hit it, and I got completely black eyes, everything. I was dizzy. I couldn't stand up. They didn't take me to the doctor. A doctor came to the facility, but, I mean, he just looked at me, and basically that was it. Nothing was done, no x-rays, no.
So your mother was called, this is what I'm told, was called because you were having issues and they knew they had to do something to you. So you left the facility to have your jaw operated on the first time, correct?
She came for one of the seminar things they have. After a year, I saw her for the first time after 13 months. She'd finally been allowed to come. I mean, I wasn't allowed to talk to her. I wasn't allowed to see her. There was really no means of communication.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll be back right after this.
WWASP says their teen camps help the vast majority of children, and that any program with troubled kids has complaints. Does your girlfriend get violent with you if she doesn't get her way? If so, call us at 1-800-MONTEL-2. That's 1-800-MONTEL-2.
Please welcome Shannon's mom, Jane, to the show. Welcome her. And also, where does it start here? Yeah, Jane, looking back, hindsight is always 20/20. Okay? I was a parent in your same situation and made the same decision. But I've refused to sign my child outside of the States. Number one, she wasn't leaving the United States of America. Number two, I refused to sign over my parental rights. Why would you sign your child? What made you think about overseas versus here?
The local community where I live in South Florida had a lot of children in that program. And there was a big support network. There were a lot of people there. They recommended the program. So it sounded good at the time. It sounded good, and I was desperate. I think desperate parents do desperate things. And at the time, I thought this was perfect.
And now that you have hindsight and the benefit of, what would you say to a desperate parent?
I would never, ever send my child out of the country again, just what you said. I would never do that because the rules are different. The rules are totally different, and definitely know what you're doing. Research it. I just trusted everybody else. I did not go into it myself.
Let's talk about that too for a second, because one of the things that you said, and I know that the program that I sent my child to, I could have called a whole litany of parents. I don't know whether or not that group of parents were like in your particular case. You found out later, but why don't you explain? You called and interviewed some parents who supposedly had sent their children out, right?
The local representative sent me a list of names to call who had daughters who had problems like Shannon, who were in the school she was in, and she gave me a long list. I called them all. They all raved.
And what did they say?
Oh, what a great place. They're doing fine. They're off their meds. They're a changed person. I got very good recommendations. I went to a support group meeting. Everybody just said how great it was.
Please welcome Mr. David Pollack to the show. David, you're representing Shannon in a lawsuit, so I know we have to be very limited in what we say. Mr. Ken Kay, the president of WASP, says that our regimes are designed to cope with teenagers who are threatening their own lives. WASP has denied all charges when it comes to Shannon's case and other cases that we may talk about here a little later on in the show. How can you, an attorney, possibly go after an organization like this that's going to have lists and names of families and other people who are going to say, you're wrong, she's lying. So what kind of lawsuit could you possibly have against these people?
Well, it's been filed, and it's going to be, you're right, it's going to be a fight. And it's going to be a fight because in this particular case, and I can only talk about this particular case, there's a vested interest in these programs make money. But what Jane's not telling you is that she and lots of other parents go into serious debt to put their kids in these facilities. And you ask, how can a parent send their kid overseas? Because if you look at the literature, you look at the brochures, you talk to these people, and they tell you, we can help your kid. We've got the solution. In Shannon's case, these programs say they're not equipped to take kids in their own contract. They're not equipped to take kids who have serious psychiatric histories, bipolar disorder, which she had. She should never have been admitted to that program. And when she got there and she tried to jump off a balcony, what did they do? What did they do for a year after she had a problem with her jaw, and she kept saying day after day, my jaw is clicking, I can't chew, I'm having problems eating? Did they get her medical care?
Now I'm going to say this. I will tell you right now, any parent in this country who will pack your child up and send them outside of the continental United States, having signed a release to turn over authority for your child to another person, I think that's a criminal act. And they shouldn't be a parent. How about that one? We'll take a break. We'll be back right after this. For free studio audience tickets, call us at 212-989-8101 or visit our website at montelshow.com. You know, I wanted to make a comment real quick before we continue, and it's something that you said during the break. If any parent in this country were to take their child and drop their child off, I don't know, let's say you dropped it off at a grocery store. Drop your child off at the school and just leave your child at school and leave. That parent's probably going to be brought up on charges for harming and wrongful endangerment because you didn't take the child to the proper facility. To me, that's child abuse. If I sign my child over to an organization that does this to my child, I'm not talking about you. You didn't know. But from this point forward, I think parents are getting a big, wide look at this. This is happening all over the place. I'm not the first show to do this. Dave, what do you think?
I think the government needs to get involved in this. I think one of the problems is they've tried to pass federal legislation. I know there's a congressman, I think in New York, who tried to do something, and particularly for these schools that are overseas. But again, every school is different and every situation is different. But I think you've hit on something, Montel, that's right. That is, you know, if something happens to American kids, and the majority of the kids who are at Shannon School come from this country, there has to be recourse. Unfortunately, in this case, the people who are the parent companies of these schools are based in the U.S., and that's why we're going to be in court here, and that's why we're going to stay here.
Please welcome Lisa and Samantha's sister Kate to the show. Kate, thank you. I'm sorry it's taking this long to get to you, but I mean, now you watch your two older sisters get sent off for making any minor infraction. You must have been the angel child. I see the halo around your head right now. Said, huh? I mean, what was it like for you knowing that I gotta behave, or I'm gonna wind up like them, and at the same time wishing you were with them?
Yeah, I knew what the consequences were. So, and I did my best. Like I was an extremely observant child, and thank God for that, because I would have been there. You know, my parents, they did try to put me there, but
you were doing nothing wrong.
No, I was angst. I did no drugs. I didn't speak to my parents. I wasn't the 10-year-old little girl that they wanted. You know, I was growing up. I was a teenager, but no, I did no drugs. I didn't drink. I did nothing.
The defense is number one defense, that Shannon's a bad kid. She lied before. She was a bad teen. Why should we believe her now? Why should we sit up and believe these stories? And again,
hold on, please welcome Johnny and his father John to the show. Perfect timing. Good segue. Talk to me, guys. You went to another one of his facilities that I should say is run by this parent company called WASP. WWASP. And again, Mr. Ken Kay, the president of WASP, says, our regimes are designed to cope with teenagers who are threatening their own lives. WASP has denied all charges in your case too. So, different, and the reason why I kind of separated you guys is because you agreed to go to this place, did you not?
Well, I thought it was going to be like a vacation, but when I got to the airport, they kind of just grabbed me and just did what they wanted, and that's what happened.
We take a break. We'll be back right after this.
Are you a young woman whose violent behavior has ruined relationships in the past? If so, call us at 1-800-MONTEL-2. That's 1-800-MONTEL-2.
So, Johnny, the experience of this place was, again, and we've heard it now, but characterized by beatings, restraint. Were you getting any education?
No.
Now, you know what? I got to make sure we get this clear. Did they offer you books to read at some point in time?
I was in isolation, so I didn't get anything.
So in the isolation that you were in, and how long were you in isolation?
Pretty much the whole time, probably about 9 months.
John, when did you hear what was going on with your son?
We went to their series of seminars, and in the seminars they tell all the parents that your children are going to be safe in our programs, and if you want your child to be successful, you have to support the staff and the program 100%. In other words, if you don't support everything that they say, then it's going to be your fault if your child isn't successful. And we were misled when he was in the program.
How much were you paying for this program? Can I ask you?
I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of $4,000 or $5,000 a month.
Per month. I have to ask you. Look, please welcome the author of the upcoming book, Tough Love America, Maya Solovitz. Is that correct? Maya, you've been studying these programs, have you not?
Yes, I have.
And what have you found out?
The National Institutes on Health has found that these programs are ineffective. They did a state of the science statement, which means that the science shows that this does not work. And we've known since the early 70s when these programs first came out that they are ineffective and that they can cause harm.
So if we've known since the early 70s that they're ineffective, then why are they still in existence?
Because there is no regulation, and there is, what we need, I believe, is sort of an FDA for behavioral health care. If I want to set up a treatment program tomorrow, I can set up Maya's treatment program tomorrow.
And I can tell you that that's the part about this that I hope every parent, every person looking at this show will listen to and hear. Today, right this second, I and Maya can walk right out this door, walk right next door, pay $300 or $1,000 a month for rent if I can get an apartment next door, and say right there, I've just opened up a facility to help troubled teens, and I'm going to charge $12,000 a month for it, and I'm certified to do so. And I guarantee you, I can get 50 kids in that one apartment if I want to, and nobody can stop me. Nobody.
There's no federal regulation, so what happened with places like Straight is they would get thrown out of one state by regulators who would finally catch on to it, and they'd just move to another state.
But why cannot the state or someone go after some of these facilities criminally?
I absolutely agree with you. What the problem is that we don't believe kids. Once somebody...
Here's one. This kid, who's now a big kid, was raped as a little kid.
Yeah.
And we got the record of the fact that she had to have an abortion that the state paid for. Are you telling me that somebody that raped a 14-year-old 20 years ago has a statute of limitation? I thought that's not true.
She's a druggie. She's a dog. She doesn't have any rights. And the way a child can be committed indefinitely to these programs. You could put them in at age 10, and they don't have any rights till they're 18.
And there's a financial incentive to keep them in longer, because the longer these parents were told things about how long the average kid stays in a program and how quickly it's going to happen, it didn't happen. You fault the parents, but you got to look at what they were told, and you got to look at what they were given.
Believe me, I'm not faulting the parents, but I'm saying from this point forward, I will.
Look at your board of directors of these things.
And buyer beware. Let me take a break.
Please.
We'll be back right after this.
WWASP says they are a safe haven for change and cites numerous satisfied families.
For free studio audience tickets, call us at 212-989-8101 or visit our website at montelshow.com. Take a look at what we're working on for tomorrow's show. Teresa was only 12 when her father was accused of molesting her and her 10-year-old sister.
My daddy didn't do it.
She testified that he didn't do it. Her little sister testified that he did.
I was doing what the authorities told me to do. They convinced me.
Jeffrey spent 15 years in prison for a crime he did not commit.
I feel like it was my fault because I cried on the stand too much to bring you home.
That's tomorrow, Montel. Maya, what else? What other options do parents have?
Well, actually, the most important thing to do is to keep the child in the community with the family. Family therapy is one of the most effective things that we know of to deal with these problems. There is no evidence that residential treatment helps. And we've been sold a bill of goods that we need to send our kids away, we need to get them out of the environment, blah, blah, blah. But they're going to have to eventually deal with the environment. They're going to have to learn to deal with temptations. And so why take them out? I mean, obviously, if there's a safety issue, an immediate suicide issue, then you need a few days, maybe a week. But the data is really clear that keeping them in the community, individual therapy, family counseling is much more effective.
Parents also need to know, y'all, kids do not come with instructions.
Right.
And if they came with instructions, we'd all get it right. Well, guess what? We're all going to mess it up. I, as a parent's going to mess it up, and a kid's going to mess it up, but guess what? What the word family means is that we all work together to solve it, not hire a bunch of beanheads outside of this country to try to solve the problem for us. Done. Out of time. Join us on the next Montel.